You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome to Bunch Formation, the newest college football podcast. I am Chris Vannini. I am back home after a Vegas bender and ready to get back to some college football.
While Chris was busy in the Mountain West, I was always David Ubben, and I am getting ready for a Charlotte bender next week. The ACC Media Days, I will be there. I'll also be going to the American Media Days. That's usually Chris's territory, but looking forward to it. So a lot going on.
We are back. Apologies for it's been about a week since our last episode. A lot has been going on since then. David's still dealing with some potential house stuff, moving stuff. My wife and I, unfortunately, lost one of our dogs last week. Had to say goodbye to our sweet little Chihuahua, Ralph. I was also in Las Vegas for those aforementioned Mountain West Media Days. And we have been playing College Football 26 a whole lot to get ready for the review episode, which will be the next one in your feeds early next week, probably Monday. And we'll have someone from EA Sports on that episode as well. We have a ton to talk about. A lot has happened since we were last here.
Mm-hmm.
SEC Media Days are in the books with a lot of kind of weird stuff going on. Mountain West Media Days are in the books with a bit of drama. Big Noon Kickoff will have a new face in Dave Portnoy. There may or may not be a new executive order from Donald Trump about college sports. And on that note, let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein.
Or not talk about it before Eli Drinkwitz.
Not that. Of course not. No, we're talking about Missouri coach Eli Drinkwitz, who said at SEC Media Days that he would not be taking any questions about Jeffrey Epstein.
First of all, I love how mad Eli makes people. Like, it's just in general. Like, he spawns a reaction out of people. And whatever that reaction, I love. It's just very funny to me. It's very entertaining. I like Eli. Good dude.
Mark Stoops said that comment from Eli Drinkwitz was suspicious, and I couldn't believe any of that was actually said out loud.
I don't know if Eli sent his opening statement across his AD Laird Veach's desk before he rocked that, or Greg Sankey's desk, where he was going out basically being like, that plan that the SEC is generally aligned on. Actually, how about this?
Eli Drinkwitz, he is what people think Lane Kiffin still is, but isn't really. No, Eli Drinkwitz will actually troll a lot more, and he'll do it publicly. He'll say it. He made the Connor Stallions joke a couple years ago during the playoff show. He's not afraid to just
legitimately very funny.
Get out there. Him and Dan Mullen had a spat one time.
Yeah, he came with a lightsaber, I believe, to a press conference after beating Florida. I will say though, Chris, did you get a chance to watch the 9 minutes of Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum from SEC Media Days?
So I've heard good things. I was so busy, I actually have not seen this.
You need to. We should stop the show and let you watch it. It's magic. The chemistry between the two of them, it's very hard to explain. There's no actual information in the interview. It's just them two like sort of lovingly ripping on each other, but also like maybe airing some dirty laundry. That was more the Destin interview was more some dirty laundry airing, and it's just it's very funny and very entertaining. So if you've not watched that, you should. That for me, that was the highlight of SEC Media Days, was watching Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum spar. I could watch them talk to each other for like a month.
You should also read our colleague Joe Rexroad's story on Paul Finebaum in The Athletic.
Very good story.
Very good story. Not the story you're going to think it's going to be. It's kind of how Paul has kind of changed over the last kind of 5 or so years, and the Lane Kiffin stuff comes up. Really good story by him. If you haven't checked out the show notes, we're going to have the stories we talk about linked in there. We're going to have timestamps in there as well for anything we talk about, so you can jump ahead. Send emails to bunchformationpod@gmail.com for any feedback or questions. We might get to the mailbag in this episode. We do have a group of questions. Also, Bunch Formation on all your social media platforms. Ubben, you guys say something real quick?
I do think it's interesting not to go down a Finebaum rabbit hole. All the people who hate Paul Finebaum don't actually know him. They hate the character of Paul Finebaum. I have yet to meet anybody in the business who does not like and respect Paul Finebaum. One, for doing what he's done for so long and establishing himself, but just like as a person, he's like pretty much what you see is what you get in person a lot. I like Paul. Good dude.
And he offered you his house in Charlotte.
He did offer me his house in Charlotte. I told him we might be fishing from different ponds in that respect. But
yeah, I think on Paul, I would say he very much plays a character when he's on the main ESPN shows, and he knows that, and he's doing it. He's doing kind of the pro wrestling thing, trying to throw out takes about Jim Harbaugh and whatnot. But then when you go on his show or when you talk to him in person, really nice guy. And I do think I didn't know him as much prior to the last 5 or so years. So I gathered that from Joe's story that he kind of has, I think, lightened up a bit from what he used to be. But he is very nice in person, very helpful to all kinds of young reporters. Good dude. Just know that the guy you're getting angry at on television, he's working you. He's very much doing the character, which is his job, and he's good at it.
Yeah.
5-star reviews on the show. If anybody sends them along on Apple Podcasts or whatever, we will read them. And we do have another one. Ubben texted me about this one before I'd even read it. He really liked it. So
it was funny. The last part of it caught me off guard and legitimately made me laugh. So
from Maximus, who says, if you want takes sans reasoning, this is not a podcast for you. But if you want people that know their
Ubbenect? I believe that's intellect, but just
intellect. Ubbenect deeply. Must be intellect deeply and broadly. That effortlessly back up evaluations with facts and relevant history, that use stats to clarify rather than distort, that understand the sport and everything in it and around it, and just love it. And finally, if you want company of guys you would just love to get lost in conversation with for hours over a beer talking ball, hit the subscribe button. That's what you will get from Chris Vannini and David Ubben. The only other team in their league is Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman. Small wonder they all used to work together and are friends. And side note, the 4 of us were at the bar talking ball at Big 12 Media Days.
Yeah, legitimately for like an hour and a half. Yeah.
Which, well, I'll bring up a food take in a second here. Ubben had a food thing we haven't gotten to on that. And Maximus also says they only have one fault. If only Ubben could appreciate the zen of the San Gabriels lit up by the setting sun over the Rose Bowl, presented by Who Cares? It's the Rose Bowl. Okay, 2 things, Ubben. First, Rose Bowl, I love it. You don't care for it.
I get it. I respect it. I just don't think college football and its progress toward whatever it's going to be should be held up by a sunset. That's my main issue.
Okay, second thing. Ari went at you on Twitter over this. So we, the 4 of us and and Justin Williams, our colleague, went to, I pronounce it Cane Rosso, the pizza place.
Don't say that out loud in Dallas. It's Cane Rosso, Chris.
Cane Rosso.
Chris also not a food guy. Aggressively not a food guy.
So we go to this pizza place, and Ubben orders 2 appetizers of, I think, 3 meatballs as your meal. And you wouldn't let Ari have any of them. And he was very offended by this. And Ari has called you out on Twitter.
He did.
Your response.
So, first of all, it was mostly, so I don't really love Neapolitan pizza, okay? This is what Cane Rosso does. It's more, it wasn't a pro meatball order. It was I call it a repudiation of the big Neapolitan industrial complex, or Neapolitan pizza industrial complex, basically. I'm just not a fan of that style of pizza that much anyway. All that to say, the meatballs are very good. I've had them before. I've been to Cane Rosso. I don't go there when I lived in Dallas. I didn't go there frequently for all the reasons that I just mentioned. But they do a good job, and it's fine. There's good pizza there, whatever. I was just sort of testing the waters. I was pretty hungry, but I wasn't that starving. So I just got an appetizer of meatballs. They were very good. I remembered how good they were. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I'm still hungry. I was getting ready to go to another thing I had later that night. And I was like, I want some more meatballs. And I got 2 meatballs. That was basically my whole meal. So I didn't get appetizers for a table. I was getting meatballs as like a small meal, but then I wanted more. And Ari did not understand this. Ari was nonplussed because he thought I was getting a appetizer for the table. Not the case. So I am like generally anti-sharing food depending on the context, but meatballs is not a real shareable thing because a whole meatball, that's like a third of your meal. And when we start getting into utensil touching and like, also bites and stuff, then it's like, then I'm not the craziest about that.
Ari is somebody who will always try to take a bite of your food no matter what it is.
That's true.
He's very much the opposite of that, but just wanted to give you that platform. I thought it was
Thank you for letting me defend myself, because I will defend it 10 times over.
It was the ordering made sense, but everybody else got pizza. We all got our own individual pizza, and then you got 2 orders of meatballs,
which were delicious. I gotta say, no free ads.
Fair
but hey, Cane Rosso, you're doing great. Whatever you're doing with those meatballs, you're killing it. You're killing the game.
Cane Rosso. I'm gonna make sure I'm saying it right now. From now on. All right, so let's jump into not the media scrum first. We're gonna go with the Say What segment.
I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
And that is because Epstein wasn't the only weird thing that Eli Drinkwitz was talking about at SEC Media Days. He proposed a 30-team playoff model. The idea being essentially the SEC and Big Ten would have 8 teams each play for 4 spots each. The ACC and Big 12 would have 6 spots each to play for 3 spots. 6 teams to play for 3 spots. And then there'd be 2 more auto bids and whatever. He didn't really finish the thought. But basically, you would just have a whole slew of play-in games instead of a conference championship game. This was insane to me. And the reason is because the SEC keeps talking about this idea like, hey, let's have 1 through 8 play each other. The winners goes to the playoff. That's a terrible idea. SEC ADs have talked about this too. If you're the first or second place team in the SEC, like,
you don't need to be playing.
You don't need to be playing your way into the playoff. And so that's why I think that whole thing is a problem. And there's a reason he pitched it like this, because he thinks the committee has an inherent bias toward non-blue bloods, essentially. He said
he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
He is wrong. He said to our Seth Emerson has a story. We'll link to it in the show notes where Drinkwitz says it's based on implicit bias and it only benefits the top 25 blue bloods who are consistently ranked in the top 25. It's wrong because we just went through a cycle where Indiana and SMU made the playoff over Alabama. We had a year where TCU made it in over Alabama.
Yeah, but Chris, they also SMU and Indiana also got in with 1 and 2 losses. Like, yeah. If they had equal schedules, there would be a bias toward. It's not a bias toward blue bloods. It's a bias toward recruiting rankings and talent. The idea is these SEC teams have more talent than these other teams, so they're probably better teams than them. They have more talent. That doesn't necessarily mean you're a better team. I think there's clearly, a bias toward the more talented teams. Indiana got in, and people were not happy about it, despite the fact that they were a 1-loss team that beat the heck out of a bunch of teams.
And that's my point. So I thought, like, Cincinnati made a 14 playoff. It's not like these underdogs are getting left behind by the committee in pretty much anything that we've had it, other than if you want to say the Baylor TCU, the first one when Ohio State got in kind of a weird situation. But that was weird. But there wasn't a ton to talk about at SEC.
Yeah, it was kind of a quiet SEC. I will say I hate this idea for a lot of reasons. But the first one is this is an embracing of the March Madness sickness, okay? Basketball is different than football. We already saw this. I don't want 30 teams on the last weekend to be playing for a chance to play for a national title. That is literally the worst thing you could ask for, devaluing the regular season. What I want the playoff to be is have everyone who has spent the regular season staking a claim to, we deserve to compete for the national championship. Everyone that has a reasonable claim gets to compete. And then maybe a few others. That's why I like the 8-team, that will never happen, but that's why I'm an 8-team guy. The 12 teams already too many. I like that there's a bunch of teams in the mix late. I don't need 30 teams in the conversation on the last weekend of the season. That's quite frankly too many teams. And then, like you said, when you start getting into the logistics of so if Georgia gets upset by, I don't know who would be the 8th team. If Georgia gets upset by who is the 8th
Texas
team in the ACC last year? Whatever. Texas. So then Georgia's not in the playoff. That's stupid.
Right.
So they went 12-1, and that doesn't make sense. So
yes,
it's a bad idea for a lot of reasons. I get his sentiment. I mean, it is just essentially the Big Ten's thought. I get where he's coming from. It's the play-in game stuff is defensible. I disagree. The model that he's throwing out there doesn't make sense. So I don't like that at all. I like the 5-11. Also, I like the committee. I like the arguing. That's kind of part of college football. I don't like taking all this away. So
that's my biggest problem. And actually, let's take it into the media scrum right now on that note and just kind of get into the news side of it all.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage.
And the committee is mostly done a good job. And so, I talked to Rich Clark, the executive director of the CFP, last week at Big 12, again this week at Mountain West. He's going to be at Big 10. He's making all the rounds. And they're looking at different kinds of metrics and schedule strength metrics to potentially have the committee use. One of those could be top 40 wins are weighted even more than other wins. They might use a strength of record metric, which I actually like. I just think is going to upset people because I think people are too tuned in on strength of schedule. They're not going to understand strength of record. But none of this is going to... We're stuck in the middle because the Big Ten is going to stick with its auto bid thing. We'll see what Tony Petitti says next week at Big Ten Media Days. But the Big Ten says, all right, we'll do 5+11 if the SEC goes to 9 conference games. Greg Sankey wants the SEC to go to 9 conference games, but not enough of the coaches do.
No,
Mark
he's
Stoops
losing that battle.
about how he doesn't want to do it. So, what do you think they should do? Should the SEC go to 9? What do you think in general on that?
Obviously, yes, but I understand all the reasons that they don't because there's no one forcing them. This goes back to the fact that no one's in charge. I've said for as long as I've been able to say it, that the fact that some leagues play 9 and some leagues play 8 is insane. It's insane that it's ever happened. I understand how we got there. You'll be shocked to know it's the pursuit of money, Chris. It doesn't make sense, and it creates all kinds of problems. obviously the SEC should go to 9 games. I'd frankly be okay with the Big Ten going 8 and Big Ten and the ACC and Big 12 going 8, and then having some non-conference, like you must play, not Rutgers. Everybody can't play Rutgers.
Which the SEC does, by the way.
Yes, I know, but I'm saying I'd like to see that and have more crossover games that would help, I think, alleviate some of that. But then you have the super conference stuff. So then 8 games doesn't really make sense in that context either. There's just so many things about the sport that are like inherently broken at such a foundational level that whatever you do is not going to make sense, because trying to do this playoff with a super conference situation doesn't really make sense in any way. But yeah, they should go to 9. But Chris, it feels like to me that we're having this line drawn in the sand. No one seems willing to cross. It seems like the momentum has shifted hard towards status quo in 2026, at least. Is that your feel? You think we're going to get there?
Well, it's not that the momentum.
Well, it's that there's no momentum. And when there's no momentum, nothing's going to happen.
Because the new rules, the SEC and the Big Ten essentially both have a veto. So it's not it's not technically that they pick it, it's that they can stop it. And so if they don't come to a decision, the deadline for ESPN is December, then they would just stick with the 12 team. And we would stick with what we have.
We'll see what comes out of the Big Ten this week, but it seems like they know that they're on a 10 versus 1 island and they don't care, which is fine. But that's interesting to me.
Yes, and it's fun to see it coming around, because I wrote in January before the national championship game, stay at 12. 12 was great. Don't expand it. And since then, our friend Nicole Auerbach has written a column saying stay at 12. And this week, Dan Wetzel at ESPN wrote a column saying stay at 12. So we've got that media momentum. I was ahead of this. I was on top. I was saying 12. I like 12. I didn't like the reseeding stuff, but that's fine. I can deal with that. But
yeah, I'm whatever with it.
The one thing I'll say, though, while it is a December deadline, I wouldn't consider that a hard deadline. Just kind of talk.
That's kind of what I was asking people at the CFP meeting in Asheville. Is the December 1 thing? It's like, well, but if they really want to do it, I think they.
Yeah, if come January they make a decision, I don't think ESPN's going to say no. And it's the same thing that happened with expansion last time. They stopped expansion, then eventually came back around and did it way after the deadline. They said they were going to do it. So we'll see, but I have no idea what to predict where expansion is going to go. I do expect the Big Ten to talk about it next week. But let's talk about current SEC. Anything else notable? Arch was there. Arch Manning got a lot of attention.
He did fine. I figured he was going to do fine. Arch is so I covered the Sugar Bowl in 2023, and I was mostly doing Washington stuff that week. And I forget who. Sam Kahn was with us, and I forget who else was with us. I'm sorry for forgetting. I've slept since then. They were doing real Texas stories. So I was doing real Washington stories. And so when Texas's time at Media Day came, I said, I'll just stand by Arch for an hour. I'm not going to run around and do reporting for real stories. I'll just write whatever Arch said, so-and-so, which is very helpful because that's a short expiration date of a story. So I was there standing there watching Arch hold court for an hour, literally an hour. I think his first time in college. And I got it immediately. I'm like, this guy understands his place in the world, is self-deprecating to a degree that's not annoying, where people are too self-deprecating, where it's I know that's fake. But he understands one
like a Jim McElwain level of self-deprecation.
I don't remember that specifically, but sure, I'll go with you. Anyway, but he understands I haven't done anything, and this attention and the fact that there's 50 people around me is stupid, but also I understand why. I am a Manning. I understand what comes with that. And he's a little bit more fiery than his uncles are. And so that's interesting. I can see how guys would rally around him. But if you're Arch Manning and you show up in a locker room, guys have a lot of reasons not to like you. And we haven't heard any of that. And he seems to have acquitted himself very well and fit in very well. And I think it's because he has that sense about him. And if you just sort of spend a little bit of time around him, you can sort of get the feel for that of I'm just a guy. I understand why I can't just be a guy, but at the heart of hearts, with my roommates and with my friends, I'm not all caps Arch Manning. I'm just our
Yeah.
teammate, basically. And I think he's very good at that.
He
So I figured
seems
he'd
to
be
like
good at media days.
Yeah, he seems to like kind of trying to be a normal kid. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't do much social media. He goes to class. It sounds like he's talked about it. But he also
He was
understands.
probably the
it.
only
So,
player not on the College Football 26 cover.
like he is probably going to be a player that fans are going to turn on because they're sick of hearing about him, which is not his fault. But he also understands that too.
Yeah.
And so I think that will be interesting. How available he is, kind of all that stuff. I mean, again, for a 5-star number 1 recruit guy to basically sit on the bench for 2 years, like it doesn't happen. Like that.
But I think that's because you have a family looking at a 30,000-foot view and knowing
for sure.
you're not going to find a better situation. So yeah,
and he's from a very wealthy family that doesn't
That
need
helps
to
too.
immediately go somewhere too. But I think it's going to be interesting. He seems very normal, and we'll see.
I
how
think
that
my
plays
question with the Arch thing is, I think he's probably going to be a very good player. Obviously, the upside is there. But Chris, my feel is that there is a not insignificant number of casual football fans who believe or think he is the best player in the country.
He is the number 1 Heisman odds.
Yeah. And so, that's obviously not true. Maybe he can play his way there eventually, but he's obviously not the best player in the country. Correct. And I think if he is a first-year starter, which is very hard, especially in the SEC, and he's just good, people are going to be like, this guy sucks. This guy is overhyped. It's like, there's not... I think most reasonable college football people are not really hyping this guy. It's a lot of he's a good player. We'll see what he is. Obviously, if you watch him, you can see the upside. But you watch him closely enough, you can see he's a young quarterback, and it's hard to walk in and be really good and be what people think he is or want him to be.
Yeah. And on that note, I mean, let's take that into the SEC preseason media poll, which came out right before we started recording. Texas is number 1. Followed by Georgia, Alabama, LSU, South Carolina make up your top 5. The rest is Florida, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, what have you. Mississippi State at the very bottom. We got probably almost half these coaches, almost half, maybe on the hot seat. You got Sam Pittman at Arkansas, Hugh Freeze at Auburn, Billy Napier at Florida, Mark Stoops kind of at Kentucky, but they definitely cannot afford to fire him. Which we've talked about before. Brian Kelly at LSU, perhaps, and Brent Venables at Oklahoma. Of that group, Florida is the highest in the preseason poll, number 6. But who among that team, among that group, do you think you might actually be highest on this season?
I feel like Auburn. There's probably something coming there. I am quietly and privately purchasing some Jackson Arnold stock. I think last year, the way their offensive line was, and then obviously, a lot of potential was on the receivers. The offensive line wasn't very good either. I don't think he ever had a chance to have really any success. And there's not going to be a lot of good Jackson Arnold tape last year. I think he was put in the worst possible situation there. And then
they pull him quickly.
Yeah.
Which has to kind of mess with your head as well.
A little bit. In Auburn, I don't know if that's the greatest situation in the world, but you got Cam Coleman, you got Eric Singleton, you've got a better offensive line. I think you got a system that I think has had some success in the past, even though, Jackson Arnold has some things that he has not had in his career, and Hugh Freeze has a quarterback, which he has not had anything close to since he's gotten to Auburn. And so I think both of them, there's a possible reclamation project there. With Florida, I think right now, they're the quietest on that hot seat because they finished the season so strong. But you have a couple early losses in your Florida, and it's right back where you were for Billy Napier and DJ Lagway. And DJ Lagway, we saw a little bit of. There seems to be some questions about his shoulder coming into the season. Florida, I think, is probably the biggest wild card in the SEC this year. If they won the league, would you be floored? I don't know that I'd necessarily be like, how did that happen? And if they went 4-8, I don't know that I'd be like, what?
See, that team for me is Oklahoma. I think they have highest floor, lowest ceiling type of situation because you totally revamp that offense with John Mateer, Jaden Ott, offense coordinator Ben Arbuckle. You actually have wide receivers, presumably, who are going to be healthy this year and not down your top 4 or 5 guys. And Brent Venables taking over the defense again. It's there. I just want to see it. And you've got Michigan coming to town week 2. If you lose that game, that is going to be the pitchforks are going to start to come out. You've got an athletic director change coming at Oklahoma, so you'll have a new AD coming in making that decision at some point. But preview for our College Football 26 EA Sports review, I'm very high on Oklahoma because they're really good in the video game. They are my team. John Mateer, Heisman Trophy, it's coming. We know that because of the video game. So I don't know. That's going to be interesting. Vanderbilt got its kind of prerequisite 2 first place votes to win the SEC, which happens pretty much every year. That's more than Tennessee. It's more than Ole Miss. I don't know.
It's a pretty good bottom of the SEC this year, I got to say. I think Mississippi State is the only team that people are kind of like, they stink. Like Kentucky obviously has some upside. Arkansas is always kind of a tough out. I mean, they did beat Tennessee last year. Vanderbilt obviously I think has a lot of upside, and bringing back Diego Pavia, and they should be better under Clark Lee. Like there's a bunch of bowl teams, in that mix, and teams that could flirt with 8-9 wins, in the bottom half of this league. So it's a pretty good bottom of the SEC.
So you were just talking about Auburn, and I want to clear space out for you here because this is something you wanted to write about, you wanted to talk about on the pod. So we're going to go to, we haven't done this in a minute, but the heat check segment where someone's got to take, they got to get it off their chest.
Analytics, throw them in the garbage.
And that is David Ubben. You believe that Hugh Freeze should be left alone to play golf.
Let the man play golf. Let him play golf. Listen. There's been a lot of conversation about Hugh Freeze playing golf. Lane Kiffin was trolling about it all week. It was the Lane Kiffin trolling about the golf thing is one of the funniest things I've seen all offseason. But this is born out of an idea. It's the same thing of like when you're a quarterback, the Kyler Murray video games thing. It's like there is an expectation from fans that you answer to us. And if you're spending too much personal time and the results aren't there, well, you're not working hard enough. And I think that there's a work-life balance thing lost in all this. I'm not the guy who particularly wants to be out here defending Hugh Freeze, but the reality is you can play a lot of golf and also be a good football coach. We've seen like the list of the coaches and their handicaps and all this stuff. There's not a lot of correlation between quality of coach and golf handicap. And I think
at the top of that list, by the way, was
Trey Lamb.
Well, Trent Dilfer from UAB was the top. He played a ton of golf when he got let go by ESPN. But we have a new number one. That is Trey Lamb at Tulsa.
Yeah, I'm going to go see him in Charlotte on Saturday. I like Trey. Trey's a good dude.
Who's, I think, competing in the Oklahoma Amateur.
Yes, which is like incredibly difficult to get into. Any state amateur is crazy. Also, I do think it's very funny that I don't know what Trey's salary is, probably close to or over 7 digits. I do think it's very funny that you're playing in an amateur tournament. So anyway, listen. I think people underrate the value of work-life balance and just like clearing your head. And yes, sometimes maybe like Steve Spurrier notably played more golf than probably any of these coaches on this list. Not a particularly prolific golfer, a one of the best you'll ever see necessarily, from what I understand, but played a lot, and you can do a lot. And I think there's like a fathering of some of these coaches where you're only allowed to play golf if you won 8 games or more last year. If not, then you better be watching tape constantly or making recruiting calls constantly. And like, if all you're doing is working, it's not great for your mentals for like an entire year. And maybe there's a line where you're playing too much or whatever. But, I think you can't just always be recruiting and always be doing this stuff. And for whatever it's worth, like, you're probably playing golf with donors too. And those are important people as well. And playing golf, especially at these Southern schools where those donor relationships are so important. And that's true mostly at every school, but I think especially in the South in some ways, that's kind of working also. So I'm a golfer myself. I don't get to play as much as I used to, mostly because I'm busy with work. I have 2 young kids. It just is what it is. But let the man play golf. Let's not do this. Everybody has hobbies. I don't know why Hugh Freeze all of a sudden is like the quintessential, like, he golfs too much guy. I don't know.
I'll tell you why.
How that got established. Please tell me.
It's because Auburn currently has the 75th ranked recruiting class in the class of 2026. They have 10 commits, 4 of whom are 4-star players. I
recognize that, but I'm saying a lot of coaches probably play more than he does. That's what I'm saying. This is tied to results, and I sort of get that. But also, just like him playing less golf, I just don't think it's going to.
I'm just saying, if he has a top 15 recruiting class, which Auburn can and should have, and he has before this year, Auburn has recruited pretty well under Hugh Freeze. But he was also out there upset that other schools were kind of circumventing the money stuff. He was kind of complaining about that too, amid all.
Didn't love the idea of paying for a quarterback.
You had that one too. So it's like that. It all kind of comes together, and you haven't done a good job on the field, and now recruiting isn't going very well at the moment. It's early. You can still, it's time to put together a good class, but all of that comes together for people to feel like he's golfing too much. Now, if you go 9-3 this year, we're not going to be talking about it anymore. But when that stuff is happening, people look to something. And Hugh Freeze's golf,
I know, I recognize
was known. It's not just at Auburn too. He golfed a ton at Ole Miss. Like, it's very much a thing that everybody knows about.
I just think in general, I get that people grasp for it. If Auburn doesn't have a good year or falls short of expectations, or even the recruiting thing, guess what? It's not going to be because he played too much golf. We can tell ourselves that. We can yell about that. We can do all that stuff. That's not the reason why anybody is not succeeding on the field. I can tell you that's definitely the case. So let coaches golf, not just Hugh Freeze. Let coaches golf.
I would say also, there are coaches who are known to not be that into recruiting, but that hasn't really been.
They don't all play golf.
Rep. Well, that also hasn't really been Hugh Freeze's rep. He's been getting good players his career. So wanted to let you talk about the golf there because I know you're a big golf guy. And David Ubben, big Hugh Freeze defender. That is the takeaway from the segment. Let's jump back into the media.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage.
And we're going to talk about the Mountain West, where I was in Las Vegas at the Circa, where you have to be 21 or older to get in. Because last year, Ashton Genty was not allowed in to Mountain West Media Days. He had to go do his own
School's got to
thing.
figure this out or find a way around this, because this is not a unique thing. Every time somebody has it in Vegas, there's like a couple players that don't get in.
Well, last year, Ashton Genty did one at the Bellagio, a separate one-on-one thing, right across the room from where the Pac-2 were doing a media event as well. And so that's kind of the story coming into this year. I have a story up on The Athletic about the Mountain West and the Pac-12 and where they stand. Because a day before, so I get to Vegas on Tuesday, and it's right before the baseball All-Star game is going to start. And I'm like, you know what I'm doing at the Circa? I'm going down to Stadium Swim. The pools with the giant video screen to watch sports. I'm going to go to watch my Detroit Tigers compete in the All-Star game. I get down there, and that's when the court filing comes out that the Mountain West and Pac-12 could not agree after months of mediation to settle on the $150 million owed to the Mountain West through the combination of the poaching fees and the exit fees from those 5 schools that are leaving next year for the Mountain West to the Pac-12. So I wrote something up, worked with an editor to kind of write something up, but that kind of set the tone. And everybody was like cordial at the event at Media Days. They had a happy hour event. Boise State's AD was there, Fresno State's, Colorado State's. Everybody was polite and everything was nice. But when you talk to people kind of in private, you realize like things are still very ugly. They didn't even come close to a number on the mediation from what I was told. The Mountain West people think the Pac-12 people may have made a mistake by leaving, that they should have just merged, which is what everybody outside the West thinks they should have done. The Pac-12 people say, no, things are still great. We had to cut dead weight at the bottom of the conference and go do our own thing. And on top of that, I reported that CBS will be part of the Mountain West new TV deal after Pac-12 fans thought that the Pac-12 had taken CBS from the Mountain West. So like a lot's going on here with all that. Ubben, I know not many people maybe follow this level of conference realignment, but do you have any thoughts on kind of the whole thing?
I mean, I think it was a hard decision for Oregon State and Washington State to figure out what to do. But I generally think that keeping the money for the exit fees and bringing over the best and most valuable pieces of the Mountain West. I don't know how you can get to a point where you think that anything else makes any more sense than that. That seems reasonable to me. More importantly, how much is it to get into Stadium Swim? Not like Cabana, but just get in the pool, watch some stuff. I mean, you're on like a kind of a bad sports week, but what is that? What is that? No number would surprise me.
So if you are staying at the hotel, the number is 0.
Oh, okay.
I do not know what it costs for somebody else. It does cost to get in there otherwise, but staying in there, you get to do it. That's like it's such a simple thing that was so obvious, and it's great. It's so great. You have so many giant screens. You got betting odds and stuff on the side. You can watch all kinds of stuff. I just was there for the baseball game, but what's better than sitting out at the pool watching a giant television to play sports? Like, isn't that just the dream? That's like the dream of every person.
I will say that's the whole like summer at the pool. So like I take my daughter to our pool in our neighborhood pretty frequently. But it is a little boring from time to time. And if there's like a game out there, if there's not like if it's just us, if there's not like another dad or somebody at the neighborhood that I know that we're just like chatting, that's kind of fun. But like if we're just kind of playing, and it's like after a while it does get a little bit dry. But on the realignment front, I mean, from my sense, it feels like they did the obvious thing in making the best chicken salad that they could have had from a pretty bad situation. What did you get a sense of that? I mean, what's your thought on this?
Well, the Pac-12 is what the Pac-12 hoped when they first added those schools on September 1st of last year. Their end goal, they have not and are not meeting that goal, which was to create the best of the Group of 5 conference. They were hoping that they were going to be able to swing a Memphis, a Tulane, and like that. They were hoping they were going to get $10 to $15 million from a TV deal that they hoped was going to be done in the spring. They didn't. They had to settle for Texas State. The TV deal is still ongoing. And now you've got the Mountain West and the Pac-12 both kind of competing with the same broadcasters and basically splitting the money. I wrote last September that I thought this was the dumbest part of conference realignment and that they should have just merged. And the reason was because of those $150 million in exit fees. Like, if whatever happens, I do not know what's going to happen from it. Nobody knows. But if they have to pay a substantial amount of that money, it's going to take a long time to make that back up, because your TV deal is not going to be that much more now than what you were already getting in the Mountain West. But Oregon State and Washington State did not want to merge. They did not want to add everybody. They did not want to be seen as dropping down a level. And so that created that friction. And so we'll see how that finishes up.
Did you ever think that Memphis and some of these other schools I never thought that Memphis would have that much interest in the Pac. I mean, if you can make the money work, I guess. But the American was doing well enough that
the problem is the money that was pitched in these meetings by the consulting group back in the fall. Nobody believed it. They're like, these numbers don't seem like they're going to be real, and they're not really turning out to be real. So, I mean, it could still turn around. We'll see. But I stand by that column I wrote last year that upset the Pac-12 people. And it's still, everybody at Mountain West Media Days was among the Mountain West was just like, we should have just merged. Like, this is So that's what it is. As for the Mountain West on the field, Boise State picked to win its conference or division for the 18th straight year. That is insane. 18 straight years. Every year they've been to the Mountain West.
The blue turf is hypnotizing.
And so
I don't disagree. Good team.
One of the stories I'm going to write is what is Boise State post Ashton Genty? Keep the name Sire Gaines in the back of your head.
You've been on him for a long time.
I've been on him for a long. This is my guy. He was a true freshman last year who averaged 9 yards per carry in the first couple of games. Looked really good. He looks like he's 25 years old, by the way. He's 17 or 18 years old. And he got hurt early in the season and never came back. If Boise State had won, if they had beaten Penn State, he would have made it back. But they didn't want to rush it. He is going to be a stud. Boise State, by the way, every third year, they're putting another running back in the NFL. Mm-hmm. There are so many Boise State NFL running backs. I think he's going to be one. They also added Malik Sherrod, the running back from Fresno State. So, this running back room is loaded. Maddox Madsen, the quarterback, is the offensive preseason player of the year. They bring back most of the defense. So, overwhelming favorite. I like them. They're my group of 5 pick for the playoff right now. But the other
not to get ahead of ourselves on them remembering the guys, but Jay Ajayi, still an all-time great name.
Is he still in the NFL? He was in there for a minute.
He's in the NFL in my heart. I don't know if he's in the NFL on an actual roster, so we'll see.
Look that up. But number two team was UNLV, coached by Dan Mullen. I get it, but I have so many questions about them. They brought in quarterback Calandria from Virginia. They brought in Alex Orji from Michigan. They have a ton of Power 4 transfers. So it's just so much turnover. It's hard to know what they're going to be. But the team to keep an eye on for the Mountain West, to me, San Jose State. Kenny Amatololo did a great job in his first season there. They were the number 4 passing team in the country, and they bring the quarterback back. And they avoid Boise State and UNLV on the schedule. So if you want kind of a sneaky underdog group of 5 team that might get in there, keep an eye on Kenny Amatololo. And San
Chris,
Jose
when's the last time you think Jay Ajayi played in the NFL?
I don't even know when that was. 2019?
Yes, that's correct. I would have guessed 2023, 2024. I remembered him having a good year on the Dolphins 1 year.
Yes, that's all I remember.
That's all I remember. But yes, he's been out of the league since 2019. This isn't an NFL podcast. We don't have anywhere on here. I watch the NFL. I don't really pay that much other than watching the games. I don't consume a ton of NFL stuff. So sorry the Jay Ajayi guys out here. Anyway,
but you got George Halani as well. He's with the Seahawks right now. Boise State pumps out those running backs. Sire Gaines, amazing name. I think he's a really good player. Okay, let's jump to kind of an unrelated thing. Comes out of the blue this week that Big Noon Kickoff, a Fox pregame show, is going to add Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports, as well as FS1 would be adding Barstool content on their show. Dave, you really wanted to talk about this on this episode. So what was your reaction?
So I sort of get it. I mean, obviously the Barstool audience is huge. I don't really want to, adjudicate the quality of the content or any of the past criticisms of Barstool. It sort of stands on its own. It is what it is. At this point, you kind of know who you're getting in bed with, even if I feel like, kind of dialed back some of the stuff in recent years. You haven't had a big, I can't believe Barstool said that thing in several years. It's been a while. Mm-hmm. But in the emergency press conference thing that we were taught that Dave Portnoy released, it's a lot of I'm going to defend Michigan. Michigan's great. And I get that to some degree. The tribalism is what's great about college sports. He's not a journalist. It is what it is. He can do whatever he wants to do. And I think outside of bringing the Barstool audience in, if you're just a college football fan who happens to watch Big Noon Kickoff, do people want this? Maybe they do. Legitimately, maybe they do. Because maybe there's a hate watch element of this is the new age version of Skip Bayless, where I love to hate that guy. Because game that doesn't really have that. People are annoyed with Pat McAfee and they criticize stuff like Desmond Howard says, but those guys don't play up being the heel as much.
Correct.
They kind of are just big personalities. But Portnoy seems like he's leaning into that and talking about Michigan's been running the Big Ten for a decade and all this stuff, and it's stuff that's just factually not true, but it's something like a Michigan fan would maybe say. So I think I'm confused that like as a content plan, it makes sense, I guess. I mean, maybe that's just me not necessarily being a huge Barstool guy, but I don't know. I think tapping into that audience is huge. I think people that like Barstool and can consume that content, there's a lot of those people out there are going to watch it. But I don't know, like, if people are going to want this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm skeptical.
So I think it's a good idea, but I don't know if it's going to work because you're just unsure if Big Noon can work in general. It's more that like College Game Day has found a resurgence. Like whatever you think of Pat McAfee, College Game Day, the last 2 years that he's been on, they have broke the record ratings that they have had during the season. More people are watching College Game Day than ever before. And so Fox has to do something. There was that period like coming out of pandemic when Game Day was really kind of down and Big Noon was like getting kind of close some weeks in the ratings. But then when McAfee happens, it's kind of gone in another direction. So this is what they're doing. They're trying to get their version of Pat McAfee. But it's exactly what you said, which is even if you don't like Pat McAfee, he is great at playing to a crowd and getting people involved and trying to be positive and lift all this stuff
and the
up.
Kicking thing is fun. Like he just like
thing.
he brings an element of unpredictability and fun to the show, even if it can cross over into like sort of annoying at times. It's on the Game Day thing itself, just Pat McAfee on Game Day. I think it's a net positive for the show. Clearly,
it is the
whether that be
it is the best
beyond
thing
metrics, but just like the quality of the show. I think he adds more than he detracts.
It's the best thing he does. I'm not a fan of his daily show, and I liked him a bit on wrestling, but he actually just stepped away from WWE. I think he kind of stretching himself too thin. But you know, I do the media poll during the season, and 2 years ago, Pat McAfee's ratings were among readers were very low, and he got upset about it and talked about it on his show and questioned leaving the show. But they bumped up next year, so I think Portnoy is just going to try to get in fights. Like that's the whole thing, and he's going to go at it with Urban Meyer a bunch, I'm sure. But like, if you're not a Michigan or an Ohio State fan, do you care about that?
Yeah,
like
that's my question.
If you're a Michigan State fan, you're not going to want to hear Dave Portnoy talk about how great Michigan is. You know, like I will say
that's what I think is you bring in that Barstool audience, but I wonder if you lose some college football audience because if you're just a college football person, hey, I'm going to turn this on and I'm picking between Game Day and Big Noon, and I don't have a tie to Michigan. Granted, Michigan a huge fan base, you know, one of the 3 biggest fan bases in college football with Notre Dame and Ohio State. But you watch this and it's like, am I going to want to sign up for that every week? I don't know that I necessarily would.
Like if it was Big Cat, I think that goes over better. Like Barstool already has it.
I think he's going to be on there somewhat.
Yeah, Barstool's also going to have a pregame show before Big Noon. And they already do a college football pregame show. I've seen it in person sometimes. Sometimes they're at the same events that College Game Day's at. So like that's not new. They've already done this. They're just kind of bringing some of it to Fox. But like if you're Fox, like those morning shows during the week that nobody was watching, like that was a waste of space. You might as well throw Barstool on there and see if it works. So that's it's the larger question of TV in decline and trying something else. So I think it's a good idea. I just don't know if it's going to work. I also think the video he posted Portnoy did about how great the Big Ten in Michigan is was more and better publicity for the Big Ten than anything the Big Ten itself has done over the last 5-10 years. You have won 2 national championships in a row, and you are letting you let the SEC kind of talk like it runs the sport.
Yes, so it's crazy.
The Big Ten probably needs someone campaigning for it, like Dave Portnoy. So
yeah,
that's not. Real quick, did you want to talk about Shane Gillis and his ESPY hosting?
We can. I watched some clips. I ended up watching the full monologue. We're talking about the ESPY, so I guess it's a win. You know, like it was like interesting to see on national television, like legitimately edgy jokes where like you're like, okay, like this isn't like, you know, people are going to be getting sanctioned stuff, but it was like, that's not, you don't see that on TV that often. It was like interesting. I do find it interesting, like how humorless the crowd generally is. They didn't take to it very well. Some pretty good jokes in there. The line about like Michigan, you know, not cheating was like that didn't hit. I was like, that's pretty funny. I mean,
his delivery and his style is the style that I personally like of comedy, where like you feel like you're hanging out with somebody and they'll like comment about their own joke. Like he said many times, like, "Oh, I didn't write that one," or "I should have pulled that one out." But like it's a good conversive style where you feel like you're hanging out with him on the couch or something like that. But to do it in front of like that kind of audience, yeah, it didn't really land. The Belichick one about he reads a bookie to his
Yeah, that was
girlfriend
that
and
was
talking
maybe
about
that was. It's like something that's like it's like over the line, but not like. I just as from an ESPN perspective, as a partner with a lot of those people, I can't believe they let that on air. Like if I was an ESPN president, I'd be like, "What is the upside to this? It's the ESPYs. No one cares, and I'm gonna make all these people mad that that we have." Some real skin in the game with for. So if you're like trying to, this is where the ESPN thing gets complicated, because if you're trying to serve your audience, which you do to some degree, then like, sure, that's going to make the show better. People are talking about the ESPYs, but if you're trying to please your broadcast partners, your schools, your conferences, that made no sense at all. And ESPN is obviously a huge player in this. So
I could not tell you the last time I watched anything from the ESPYs.
It's a good point. I have like literally maybe ever, but I did watch some of those jokes. The listen, the Caitlin Clark Waffle House joke, legitimately hilarious. If that made you mad, like come on.
That was better. It was better. Some of the other WNBA ones were kind of hit and miss.
It felt more, mean-spirited. The other WNBA felt more like mean-spirited, where it's like, why are we on this show celebrating the year in sports? Like talking about how nobody cares about the WNBA. Why are we doing this? It's like
exactly.
It's like the WNBA is more popular than ever. Just because it's not as popular as the NBA doesn't mean we have to like make jokes about it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
so, all right, we got some time here left on the show. So let's jump into the mailbag. We got some questions from you guys. So let's go into the mailbag.
I'm not going to. So quit asking.
This is an email from listener Chris to bunchformationpod@gmail.com. Chris says, guys, I'm loving the show, but Dave, I had to email in. You asked a couple of weeks ago if Oregon is going to be celebrating the 20th anniversary of their 2024 Big Ten title. I don't think they'll need to. They'll be celebrating their playoff berth. You mentioned earlier that making the playoff means something. So SMU will be wearing commemorative patches for their playoff game in 2024 years from now. Come on. P.S. Can't wait to hear what you guys do in the fall.
No, you're so wrong, Chris. You're incredibly wrong here.
Other Chris.
Yeah, other Chris. First off, to some degree, making the playoff does mean something. You can put a little thing up in your team facility, and you did make the playoff that year. They're Oregon. They're past celebrating playoff bursts. If you're SMU, yeah, you're going to celebrate making the playoff.
But you were saying that Oregon would not celebrate winning that Big Ten title in the future.
Yeah, they won't because of how the playoff ended.
I disagree.
But just making the playoff is not going to be enough for them. Like you're
Have
Oregon.
Have you been to a college football game?
Yeah,
like they bring back every championship team they possibly can to honor them in between the first and second quarter.
Okay, but it won't be in a way that people really get excited about or care about. Maybe they'll do like a commemorative something, but nobody will actually care about it. And 8 guys will come because they're like, I don't care about the Big Ten title. We got our butts kicked by Ohio State, and that's what I remember that season by, which is not fair, but I think that's what it's going to be. You're Oregon. Your standards are super high. If you're Indiana, they might have a 50th anniversary of this team. Okay. Like it's different for everybody else. And I just think the fact that you won this Big 10 title is great for your program, but it's ruined by how the season ended. It just is.
All right. Another email, bunchformationpod@gmail.com from Jonathan, who says, admittedly, I get tired from much of the offseason dialogue these days, so I haven't dug into the details, but I saw headlines that TV ratings significantly affect ACC school payouts now. Does this incentivize a Louisville fan to choose to watch TCU versus Cincinnati rather than NC State versus Virginia? I'm likely missing something. So what this is in reference to is a story that our Matt Baker first broke on The Athletic, that now 60% of the ACC TV money will be shelled out based on a combination of TV ratings, essentially. We don't know the exact way they're going to calculate it. But I saw a lot of fans being like, oh, should I watch my team more? Make sure not to watch another team because that's going to impact, the money they get. The answer is it's not going to be anything marginal worth caring about, whether or not you watch a game or not. And if you're not a Nielsen home, they're not even going to know. So, no, you don't have to worry about this and that, but the idea of conferences splitting money based on television revenue, not unprecedented. They did it in the Big 10, Big 12 20 years ago. Famously did not work out, as Texas and Oklahoma are not in the conference. But yeah, don't worry about that too much. We don't even fully know how it's going to be calculated. I don't think it's ultimately going to be that much of a difference. But if you're like the number 1 versus the number 16 or number 15, then maybe it could. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this stuff's going to affect user behavior at all. I think people are going to watch what they want to watch. But Chris, have you ever known somebody that was a Nielsen household? I'm kind of a low-key Nielsen truther on this.
I've always thought about it, but then realized I would not be able to like keep track of it.
I don't know. I question some of these numbers sometimes. Anyway,
like if you're a Nielsen home, basically like there's like a dial or something that's kind of connected to what you do, and it knows what you're on and what you're watching, and that's how they calculate that, and then they kind of extrapolate it based on a sample size. They don't know literally everybody who's watching. I mean, nowadays with digital streaming,
better sense, I'm sure
they can calculate that, but Nielsen is still the gold standard for that because nobody trusts what Amazon is going to put out for the number of people who watch it. So you need a third party to kind of do it. That's why also, even though this year's Super Bowl was a blowout, it got higher ratings because Nielsen had changed its formula to basically further account for out-of-home viewing. They keep tweaking it to kind of account for people who were watching outside of their home. And as a result, the numbers keep going up, even if you don't necessarily know if actually more people are watching or not. But a little inside TV there, if you care. Last one here. Listener David Gillespie is running the Chicago Marathon for the 4th time, and he's raising money for the Pat Tillman Foundation. He emailed us at bunchformationpod@gmail.com, said he wanted a college football tie-in for the charity, and he comes from a family of veterans. So I checked, he's pretty close to his goal of $2,000. So I'm going to put that link in the show notes there.
Hit him up.
Thanks to David for reaching out. And yeah, go help some money for the Pat Tillman Foundation.
A lot of David and Chris listeners, really. I promise it's not us. These are real people.
It's a good point. These are real people who actually emailed in to bunchformationpod@gmail.com. Real quick, before we get to remember some guys, Big Ten ACC next week. You're going to be there, Dave, at ACC and AAC.
For most of it. I'm coming in halfway through day 1, so I'm going to miss a lot of day 1. But
what are you going to be focusing on? What are you looking for?
I'm working on a couple things. I'll be gawking at the Belichick Zoo the last day, and then I'm going to be going over to the American to kind of see some of those coaches a little bit. But does it matter what Jim Phillips says that much about the CFP? I don't. We kind of know where the ACC is at, but it's mostly all eyes on Tony Petitti sort of making his case and getting a feel for how set in stone that is. But ACC should be pretty fun. I think Clemson might have a squad this year. This might be a Clemson redemption year, it feels like. But from the Big Ten perspective, how important do you feel like it is, kind of what Tony Petitti says and how he handles the podium this week?
Do you think Jordan Hudson's going to be there?
This is an interesting question, actually. I'm going to say probably not, but I would not be shocked if she's there. I would say the Vegas odds from the Mountain West Media Days are plus 200 that Jordan is there. There's not that much function for her to be there. He's busy. It's very much a school event. If your whole thing, the whole last few months has been Jordan's not associated with UNC, she handles my personal stuff, that's fine. But this is very much a school event. There's no Bill Belichick, the person part of this. So if she was there, it would kind of take down your whole thing of like, she's not really associated with UNC at all. Obviously not an employee. So for that reason, I don't think she would be.
So like people listening may be annoyed by a Jordan Hudson joke or whatever on the pod, but I promise you, other coaches are interested in it.
Very much
so. We talked to them at Big 12 Media Days. I talked to them at Mountain West Media Days. They're all asking us, so like,
people
what is going on there?
Yeah.
And the reality is, it's a complete failure of narrative forming if you're North Carolina, which is there's been nothing else to talk about North Carolina football. Belichick's only spoken twice. I don't think they made any players available after
spring. 3 times now. He did the intro presser in December. He did one midway through spring, and then he did another one in like June or May. It was very weird time.
Yeah.
Like coaches don't talk in June like at all from like a press conference perspective. Like if it's not spring or signing day or the season, coaches almost never talk like at a podium with take questions. It was weird, but it seemed like to me a response to the vacuum of information.
Right. Like you got to get your players out there and let them talk and promote your program and do that kind of stuff. That's what UNC should be doing at this media days next week, but they've just let it because there's been nothing else out there. It's the only thing that people talk about, and we've written about it quite a lot. Brendan Marks had a great story on it because it's interesting. Ultimately, I don't think it's a big deal. Once football starts, nobody cares. If they're fine,
it's very much like the Hugh Freeze golf situation. Bill Belichick's girlfriend is Hugh Freeze playing golf. If they win, no one will care. If they lose, it's going to be all people are going to talk about. Like, oh, well, this thing is like distracting you from, doing your job. I don't think either of those things in reality are that true. But
all right, now let's get into remember some guys.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
This is the segment where we mention a former college football player and we go, hey, remember that guy? I'm going to go first. A guy I talked to this week, Timmy Chang. Timmy Chang, the Hawaii quarterback. Anybody who stayed up late at night in the mid 2000s to watch him play and light it up for Hawaii, that was a lot of fun. Threw for 17,072 yards, 117 touchdowns, had most of the passing records, career records. Some of them have been broken since, but one of the first guys who was like, whoa, what are the numbers this guy's putting up? I think he has a record for interceptions as well, which is what happens. But he's entering his third year there as coach. I met the new athletic director who they just hired. And he told me they're actually just about to start tearing down Aloha Stadium before they kind of get through the process of building.
I've driven by it once. It looks old.
I went to Hawaii in 2004 on a high school marching band trip, and we stayed in Honolulu. And it's like right in the middle. Like you can't not see it whenever you're going around Honolulu. But man, that's like a historic stadium. It's tough for the way it ended and all that stuff, but Pro Bowls there, so many big time Hawaii games there. If anybody stayed up late when their team played at Hawaii and probably lost in some heartbreaking fashion, remembers that. But Hawaii football I love Hawaii football because there's nothing like it.
It's a weird
American
thing.
sports.
It's like, the NFL keeps talking about putting a team in London. Well, college football kind of already has a team in London. It's just the other way, basically.
Yes. And by the way, as part of that Mountain West realignment, Hawaii is coming into the Mountain West now as a full member, not just football only. So Hawaii full in the Mountain West now. And Timmy Chang, hope he turns it around in year 3. But man, when he was playing, you got to remember that guy.
Chris, I probably will never tell my Hawaii coach Todd Graham story on this pod, but you know it.
Yes, I do. We'll find a good time to talk about it, just like we'll find a time to maybe talk about my recent Scott Frost story. Not for today, maybe in the future.
Yeah, maybe. I'm also going to remember a guy who has also gone into coaching, Zach Robinson. Very good-looking guy, but also a dual threat quarterback that kind of started things for Mike Gundy. I wrote about Big 12 quarterbacks this week. If you haven't looked, the Big 12 is the best quarterback league, by a decent margin coming into this season. I think it's going to be a very fun league, obviously unpredictable, but we're going to have a lot of big points. And Zach Robinson kind of got things started at Oklahoma State. He would kind of help turn it around for Mike Gundy, who people forget was very much about to get fired very early in his tenure at Oklahoma State, and since then has built a lot of things there. And Zach Robinson was kind of the start of that, obviously bled into some other guys, and the Clint Shelfs of the world and Brandon Weeden and all these guys. Oklahoma State always seemed to have a pretty good quarterback. They've kind of gotten away from that the last couple of years, but Zach Robinson, a dual threat guy at that 2009 Oklahoma State team, had Kendall Hunter, had Zach Robinson, Dez Bryant to start the season. They're on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Dez had that crazy touchdown catch. They win that game, but then Kendall breaks his foot. Dez has the stupid Deion Sanders thing, actually, where he lied about going to Deion's house for some training or something, which would not have been a violation. But because he lied to the NCAA, they suspended him for the rest of the season. This is the world we were living in 2009. that lying about a non-violation to the NCAA got you suspended, even though you didn't actually do anything wrong, but you lied because you were panicking and you were a kid. Anyway, so Dez was out for most of the year. Kendall didn't play that much that year, and Zach tried his best to try and fight it. But the great player, great team. Zach Robinson. You remember that guy? He's now the OC at the Falcons, by the way.
Yeah, by the way,
he's like he's had a very good NFL coach, I guess. So.
Yeah, he's been coaching for about 6 years now. Moved up for the Rams, and going into his second season as the Falcons offense coordinator. So good for him.
Time to get Falcons OC. Michael Penix. I liked what I saw from him last year, just throwing darts.
And a quick correction on my part: Timmy Chang actually entering his 4th season as the head coach at Hawaii. Not the
I would have guessed second. That feels like he has not been there much at all. I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of a total rebuild they had to do. So we'll see how that goes. But that's going to do it here. Next episode, the College Football 26 review. We're very excited to get that. Please tell your friends about this podcast. We're coming up on the football season. We're going to kind of like try to do kind of like a relaunch of the pod here. Have had a lot of people reaching out asking about what happened Until Saturday. Until Saturday is not coming back. This is our new show. If anybody asks you, please direct them to this show. But as we get closer to the season, we're going to kind of try to get the word out once again. But this has been a lot of fun. I'm having a heck of a lot of fun doing this. Good to be back. We'll be back in your guys' feeds pretty quickly. So stay tuned for that. So for David Ubben, I'm Chris Vannini, and we will talk to you in the next one.
And please bring back the turnover chain, even if it's just on the video game.